Hi, welcome everyone, and thanks for everyone who's already here, and for those of you who are going to join. It's such a pleasure to speak with my great friend Troy Ladder, and we're doing a bit of practical, I guess, time traveling in the 21st century. It's Friday for you, Troy. It's Thursday afternoon for me. So I love that we got one foot in the present and one foot in the future. Well, you're in Australia. You guys are always ahead of everyone else, aren't you?
We think we are some ways, Carlos. Welcome, thank you, everybody. It's great for those that are going to join us today, and it's really exciting for me. Carlos and I had a chat about 18 months ago, and we're going to retouch on some of those topics. But um, for me and the world around us, the world's changed a hell of a lot. And so it's going to be really exciting to dig into what's changed for Carlos, what's changed for myself, and obviously for anybody out there with their questions, what's changing at the moment. Because one of the things that we want to focus on, not just this conversation, but generally, if you read my communication, is practical, realistic, what's it mean and what's it apply for. So don't worry about the high level and what you're reading in the newspaper or what you don't understand. Have a crack at asking us today, and we'll see if we can answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got actually you're kind of burning the both ends of the candlestick with your CTO role in the Alliances and Strategic Foresight, I guess, division for Unisys for Asia Pacific, and still going strong on your Tech for Humanity consulting. Yeah, how's that been going?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired today, Carlos, and I'll probably have to put the glasses on later just to read and focus. But
No worries.
when you have a good social non-for-profit doing stuff for people, you can get out of bed or work at 3 a.m, or do the opposite. Last night I actually had APAC calls and EMEA calls, and that went into EMEA calls and then into the US overnight. So I have burnt the midnight oil, but as you and I both know, it probably helps with the news cycle. Every time
Yeah.
I wake up, there's something changed, and then there's something to dive into. And even between going to bed last night and this podcast this morning, and we're at 7 o'clock this morning, I've already downloaded a new Chinese app to a local server to see what I can do with it and play with it. So if that excites you, that there's always change, you don't mind, you can put in 15 hours or 16 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that because I really wanted to. I know we're revisiting topics from 18 months ago, which are great, and we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about. But I feel like we really need to, talk about the elephant in the room. DeepSeek R1 and QN 2.5, and they've rocked the AI world in the last 30 days, and have thrown kind of the proverbial monkey wrench into, you know, um, I guess America's plans for AI domination. For the
Well,
next
yeah,
few years, right? And even just from an energy consumption and planning perspective as well, with the whole need for more data centers and more power and four gigabytes of gigawatts rather of power that Meta was projecting in December. So I wonder what does this all mean for you? Like you're seeing this
well, I
pretty
think
ground level.
I don't think the change stops. I mean, Meta are going to invest or investing in nuclear power. Who wants Mark Zuckerberg running a nuclear power station? But it's coming, and they're going to need it for their future needs. Whether this takes down the need drastically, like everybody's starting to predict or having a look, I don't think that's the first knock-on effect. But take it back, America's AI domination, I think that's an Americanism. The rest of the world look at you fellas and ladies a little bit different, and you read your own press a little bit too much. And I think if you're playing long-term strategy and chess with China, or 4D chess as they call it these days,
Right.
I think you're going to get outmaneuvered a fair bit. And so the pumping up of everything that's been announced in the pre-Trump, post-Trump sort of month, because
Yeah.
Biden did go to sleep in the last couple of weeks, did nothing. So everything that Trump's doing is up, up, up. I mean, apparently he even stopped the war in Israel. So he didn't, just clear. But the idea of that changing dramatically is super important. And I think one of the things that's changed is, why did China do it differently and how? And it just comes back to the old-fashioned concepts and values we used to have of necessity, invention,
Yeah.
do. You know,
Yeah.
they had older chipsets. It's a spin-off from another business. Don't read the headline that it's super cheap to train and the other one's really expensive. You know, they both had to invest a lot in their ecosystem to get where they were.
Yeah.
But what they did was really differently. You know, the ecosystem, I suppose, for a ChatGPT model says, you know, if I need to do something, I have to use the whole brain every time I do it. And the bigger the brain can be, therefore I get more answers. They went, no, that's not true. If you just want a part of the brain, go to that part of the brain and make that part really smart and make it talk to each other. So, you know, if I needed a pen, I wouldn't ask all 1,000 employees to give me a pen. I'd just go to one person that was going to get me a pen. I don't need to have that thing.
Good example. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, even today, when I was, you know, you'll see a few posts for those that follow us on LinkedIn and things on censorship. You know, I tried to do a Trumpy picture this morning just for this image. You know, I wanted a Mad magazine, but the model, a DALI model, went through this whole thing and said, oh, I think you should have this. It's going to be amazing. I think I'm patting you back. Let's make it big and big. And by the time I go generate, it says, So it wasted a few trees. You know, it cost 20 cents, all that sort of stuff. The Chinese went, oh, we can fix that by just saying, what is that person doing? So that's the real breakthrough in the difference in the technology. And I think that thinking is just a little bit more of what China have got. You know, if Musk has the best satellite in the world and he's telling everybody about it, I'm pretty sure there's other people in the world that have this satellite equivalent but aren't telling everybody about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mean, uh, Biden's the one who kind of put that moratorium or embargo on AI chips, if you will. Prohibiting any sales of these advanced AI chips to China. So yeah, they had to figure out innovative ways to kind of get around that. And
Well, I mean,
you're right. They invested in their infrastructure, education wise, and building up these AI focused machine learning competencies, and they're kind of reaping the benefits. And now you've got more than one. You've got DeepSeek and now QN from Alibaba, and
there'll be
it's changed the whole landscape.
there'll be more, Carlos. You know,
Yeah.
the China thing is just going to happen. But the problem is, and governments are starting to really look at it as customers and organizations. They have to look past the China thing, because the technology is cheaper, it's faster. If you can run it in your own environments and you can secure the data, which you can, you know, it's interesting that we come out and say China, 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 but I can go and buy through AWS or through Microsoft these systems, you know, so I can use Amazon Bedrock and spin up these models, cheaply do that. So we keep saying we can't use the model, yet the American infrastructure allows it. And this whole China thing is silly. And even the Americans, when you ban TikTok, show that by going and using another Chinese app and then starting to learn Chinese in droves on Duolingo. You know, Duolingo spiked on learning Chinese, and the English to Chinese translation, all from America, all from the age group that were about to get banned from TikTok, because they're all going, do you know what? What's America? We don't care. We'll just learn a little bit of Chinese, and this other app does exactly what we want. I think it's just the whole thing. What's storm and what's real? And all these AI things are real. So when we were discussing it today about what it means for customers and how they can take advantage of DeepSeek and the new models, or should they take advantage of it? You know, the first message for everybody is, it probably goes back to what we'll talk about, is the compliance, the ethics and the guidelines. So, but the first thing, even with this, was just the same as it was for Copilot. Do not use. Every organization sent out a memo. Every person got oh my God, I'm scared of the data.
Yeah.
That's a different approach to technology, because the technology and the process is right. And then sometimes you have to wonder, if these guys have been doing it, has corporate America really known that this goes on? They've just been skinning the cat as well. Like you can't just have two really smart people when you've got a mass amount of wealth just being retained in America. But the good thing about it, Carlos, is it's leading to heaps of change, and you know that the change isn't just the technology stack, it's how we use it, which means the roles are changing and the things that people are doing with them are changing. So within organizations, we're seeing new roles emerge, and we're seeing people start turning up and saying, hey, I've now got a job as an AI linguist, and my job is to try and help the gap between AI and real people. They didn't exist before.
Yeah. Yeah.
An AI ethics officer, AI trainers. Some of these things, I said last time, and it's funny, I've been saying it for probably 20 or 30 years, and it's a super big quote of mine, and apparently I've got it wrong, but I've been saying 80% of the jobs our kids will do aren't invented yet. I think there was some stats by somebody real, not me, come out recently and said it's 70%. But, all these jobs, AI product manager, an AI product manager who's now responsible for aligning all of the AI products that an organization has, because now every SaaS product they have has an AI component. After you test that, where's the data? Does it meet my other systems? How does that integrate? And so you've got all these new things about how do I do that. There's also a lot of roles starting to push up in sentiment analysis, because although we're getting really, really good at it, what we're not doing is getting the full value out of it. And I heard one of my gurus, Professor Scott Galloway, Prof G, New York Stern professor, a super gazillionaire, rude as hell, but he's invested in a company that just monetizes the comment section of YouTube and different feeds. And comments themselves are so popular that Australia is really famous for every year an Australia Day. We had it last week. They put out a commercial based on lamb. I don't know why lamb, but the lamb people decided that they claimed Australia Day, and they put out a great. This year, and we can put the link up, they made the whole ad just from the comments from their social media. You can take the AI and do something really creative with it, and there's a whole heap of jobs and things that have come up from there. I mean, some people don't like the AI music. They think that's not music. But there's 1,000 Instagram videos telling me that husbands have made songs for their wives that absolutely love AI music. Yeah,
those ads keep popping up, and I think they're trying to tell me something. I obviously need to do something sweet and romantic for my wife. So it's a nice little reminder. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, and I've been seeing these roles pop up here. Yeah,
have you tried those tools though? Have you tried?
I haven't tried. No, I haven't tried that. But I'm big on what is that? Google Notebook? Note LP, I believe it is.
Yeah,
thank you. Note LM. Yeah. Yeah.
Notebook
So
amazing.
Yeah, I love it. Right. I was I had to read this 42-page research paper, and I was short on time, and so I had it put it into a bit of a podcast format so I could hear it, which I thought was brilliant. So there are some use cases there for that's very practical, just across the board. Yeah.
So I recommend Suno.com for anybody that wants to do a bit of AI music. It's free. It's super cheap. Go in there and
Suno?
make it. Suno.com.
Check it out.
No affiliation. They're not paying me. If they'd like to, they can. But it's a really good cracker for that. But on the next bit of it, there's just so much to do with Notebook LM, and I started using it like that. Let's have a bit of a conversation, and then I would get at the start of 2025. I grabbed all of those major trend books, the trends of 2025. I threw like 20 of them in and then said, pick out the top 10 that you think's good, pick out the worst 10, show me some discourse. And it was really good at doing that. But my favorite Notebook LM thing, and I mentioned Prof G before, and there's a few other people that I have, I take their content off whatever channel it's on, a podcast, a YouTube, or a short video, and I dump all of that into my notebook. It's a big notebook, and they are big notebooks even if you don't have an enterprise version. And a lot of enterprises should start thinking about how to do this. But I sit down, I have a conversation with myself. So I've got all the things I write and post, which is why I post and write, because that's me. That's no AI agent, that's me. And then all the things I read that I like to, and the people, and then I sit there and I say, well, Carlos is going to talk to me today about the impact of AI on an industry. I better warm up with that. So I ask my Notebook LM, who's called Troy, hey, Troy, what do you think? And I have this discussion for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, I've been trying to get sales teams, for instance, to use that because they could put in company data, they could put in project information. And before they went out to their XO meeting, CX meeting to say, hey, I want to sell you something, they could have that whole conversation pre-canned in the car or over a coffee and do that. And I think, oh, well, if salespeople do it and they're like not high thinkers, they're doers and stuff, they're motivated. If they can do it, the rest of us can do it. So, I try and get my dad to try and use it for all of his medications and stuff because he forgets. So if he puts in some health script information that he gets from the doctor and he throws all of that into one notebook, he can then say, how often am I supposed to take that? Give me a podcast on it. And they'll say, Jeff, out of the 392 drugs you take because you're a really old pensioner, this is your routine. And you could have that conversation every day with it if you wanted to.
Yeah. No, I mean it's amazing, and more we're seeing all of these sort of process enablement solutions that are coming up, and I think it is all due to these roles that didn't really exist. Like you mentioned, AI linguists, fine tuning, natural language process models, for nuance and culture, which is huge. And sentiment analyzers, like making sense of those comments and how do I extract, I guess, valuable information out of there, or make a commercial, like you said.
Well, I mean, you say make a commercial, and we go back to the music and stuff, and nearly everybody we think has had a chance at making a funny picture, a funny video, and had a crack at that. And obviously some industries are decimated by it. How will that impact Hollywood? Well, it's not good. I think 6 months ago, every time I posted some new creative video, some troller or hater said, stop posting this because I'm going to lose my job. And my attitude was, why don't you learn the tool? Because the tool's what's going to stay there.
Yeah.
Stop trying to work out how do you keep coloring in and animating. And so it's the same for all of those things. Some industries are ripe for it. And I think everyone can do some research and say, well, anywhere where AI is just a repetitive and going to do the work, it's gone. But how's that any different to a car factory in the 1950s? We got people to stop doing that when we had that, and we didn't complain about it. So the evolution of jobs is always here. I really like where it's going to take businesses and customers, for me, that actually want to go on the journey. That there's a lot of them that don't, and healthcare has like some super big places for it to go for us as customers and the providers and the whole journey. And AI's helped pharmaceuticals cut discovery time by up to 50%. Hasn't cut the price, but it's cut the cost. And you think, okay, well, if they can do that, what else happens in that health supply chain that you can condense? And some of the things are really simple. I sat down with a health customer a while ago, and they have pathologists who do your blood and dentists, and they have everything in there. And this guy has 50 little clinics like that with 20 doctors in each, 1,000 doctors. And I'm like, this is amazing. I did a blood test. I can't wait. It's going to be automated. The blood test will come back and says Troy's low in X or high in Y. A prescription will turn up, and because that's the world I live in. I want it all to be simple. He's like, why would I do that? The government pays me not to do that and keep systems broken. I get paid every time there's a transfer of information.
Yeah.
So some industries, and it's universe across the world, are broken like that. So AI can't fix that. Work I've done in the past with Indonesia as an example, where cash is still king. You can't have a high transparency blockchain system managing things if everybody's dealing in $20 notes. So AI isn't the answer. You just got to work out where it is. But look.
Yeah. And digital currency is just around the corner, I think. I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine, Darren, who works in blockchain. And, it's been implemented. They're using it, I believe, in China right now. And it can be used to, there's also a value system associated with it. And this gets kind of like in the dodgier side of things where, like, if I say something that is not, deemed popular to the establishment, then my value or my social value ranking can go down, and then I can be blocked from my money being taken at the supermarket. Oh, your money's not good here.
100%.
Right? And so I can really feel that and talk about, that could get compliance really quickly.
How do you feel about that? I can't imagine that'd fly very well in America, but
I think it's terrifying. But yeah. And we're all kind of using it to a certain point, right? How many times do we tap, right, or use PayPal or what have you? My Google Wallet all the time, right? I use it several times today, on Amazon and at the gas station. So,
So I could find the footprint easily, and I think that's the issue.
Yes.
there's a fear, isn't there? And we all fear about what they're doing with it. But in truth, the government doesn't have anywhere near enough data on the people. We all know that Facebook has more data on us than our own government, sort of thing, because we've given it to them. We didn't have there was no guardrails. We just said, here, have a photo of my kid where he or she goes to school. Go and choose them if you want, because I'm just going to put it up on the internet and show you. We thought that was a good thing for years. And, social media didn't put enough guardrails in for the legislations for the, and we find out about it 10 years later, but some of the things that will happen with AI, you'd hope you'd learn a few lessons. And I know we will probably touch on censorship and stuff, but some of the other things that are really important that need to be reflected, though, these changes just don't happen. And so you read about them today, and it takes a long time to implement these in corporate and enterprise system. And as much as Musk wants to come up and save $1 trillion, doesn't seem possible. There's a lot of, you don't just do that. And no government around the world can do that. And in fact, it's the opposite. They're long times to try and understand how to use this technology, how to protect us. And in the meantime, business doesn't care about those rules, and they go out and they work on their warehouses. And I think, AI-powered warehouses process something like 60% of all inventory now. Well, they were just jobs before, but we used to go, hey, Amazon's got some robots. Now we think about them as AI robots. Do we care about them? It's all about the words and the way we use them, I think, for a lot of this stuff. When delivery drones come in and do last mile delivery, we all stand there and take a video and we get excited that it's coming. We don't go, wow, that used to be Fred on a paper run and then somebody in a car. So those things that, have to do that. But we all get excited about a drone program at New Year's Eve when it comes up and there's 10,000 drones in the air that make fireworks seem like Disneyland. Disneyland compared to Universal Studios is a drone show versus a firework, I think, it's that claymation. It's really nice and cool, but it's just a slow, rickety ride versus. The other thing I think is important is where it assists people. So I'm really big, and I suppose the Tech for Humanity side is, how it affects people. And we always looking at text AI or what it can do with us. But I'm really massive Carlos, on the voice, you know. So I had my glasses on before, but of course, being a tech bro, these are the Ray-Ban Metas, which I've had for 18 months, which I use for a lot. And I've actually got them, you know, with my prescription in them because I use them. I still like interacting with them. But, you know, my dad's spending a lot of time in Greece at the moment, and he doesn't speak Greek. So I've just got a pair of Hyundai ones
Right.
off the interweb, which aren't quite good quality, but they've got a great translation service in him. So when he goes back to Greece and everybody's speaking Greek, including my mother who can speak Greek, he'll be able to actually understand them in real time and do that. But I've also got another pair because, like, to me, typing is just why do we type, talk so fast and we can do it? So, you know, I take a lot of my notes from a meeting. I would dictate them into a GPT type thing, write my email and do it. But these ones are my favorites, Carlos, because these were my daughter's first ones, and these are my Alexa glasses. So I had these when I was working at Amazon, when I realized that, man, you can do anything with your voice, because you could just put in an Alexa blueprint for people that have their own Alexa devices at home. Is super easy to jump on a website and say, I want my Alexa to do something. So we have one for, so we'll probably talk about agents soon and the agent created, but for Alexa skills, which is really basic IT stuff, we have one for the dishwasher, and we say, Alexa, whose turn is it to wash the dishes? And instead of putting all the kids' names in it, I only put my son's name in it. And he's like, why? So you can play jokes.
Yes, right. I like that. Yeah.
Whereas my daughter has one for whose movie is it, and she has 5 names and no one else has a name. So it's like, but these are a set of glasses that I was originally using for her because at some point, so my daughter has autism, and you want to communicate to people with special needs, and this could be elderly, this could be anything, without going and saying, Carlos, you've had an accident, or Carlos, you need to do this, or Carlos, you know, I just put it in here. And then at 3 p.m. it says, Charlotte, it's time for you to go and take your medicine, honey. I don't need to go and interrupt her friends. I don't need to do anything. She just goes, oh, yeah, I got my message. It's like, wow, how cool is that? So it's an AI voice thing that's been there for years that no one's been jumping up and down about it. This is 2-3 years old. The Ray-Ban Metas are 18 years old, and the Hyundais are 8 days old, but they all do the same thing. They're just helping different people. So I think when we look at the jobs that have gone because we've automated them, in some of these industries, we're creating whole new ways of caring for people and interacting with them, and therefore, reducing their time in hospitals and lengthening their life and all those cool things that you want to talk about, just because I can communicate with someone a little bit different than old school. And so to me, really cool examples of AI that we don't pump, but more jobs are going to be created because, you know, my dad can now order souvlaki in Greek.
Right. So I guess so it has a speaker on it that'll translate what he's asking for, I suppose, or
So this one's full translation. You get in one ear that, and it gives you back the other, and you can say it and stuff.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah.
The Ray-Ban Meta ones, for those that don't have them, I reckon they're a great thing. Dollar investment. You know, they got the video camera, the normal camera. I was happy just listening and doing my Zoom calls and my team calls on them and going for a walk with the dog. But this has got an AI.
Like you're a great candidate for the next, you know, the BCUs when they become available, right? Your brain computing unit, where you can.
So
we're jumping ahead to our transhumanist discussion.
But it's super important, and for me it's super exciting. So if you had to go pick on what are the things you're excited about next, not what's going to happen next, you know, quantum will eventually happen and all those things. But for me, the transhuman, but for me the brain computer interface is super important. I'm on the Standards Australia Committee for the Brain Computer Interface. I'm probably the only non-scholar, non-doctor, non-person that understands it all, but I come from it from, hey, this is how it's going to work. And if it's a standard that applies to all brain computers and the way they're used within Australia, I want to say that. And so I've learned a lot about how they work, and I'm it's just, again, like the way we use our words, Carlos, and the fear versus the not, so a brain computer interface, or the way we look at it with Elon Musk, sounds a bit scary and daunting, but we've had cochlear implants to help people's hearing inside their ears for 20 or 30 years. That is a brain implant that has helped for a long time. That was before AI, that was before all that stuff. It's only advanced and got better. So for me, the way to do that's going to be really exciting, and do that. I've been talking to lots of companies over probably the last 5 years as the technology's matured for how they measure brainwaves for sport and athletes, and things like that. And I was lucky enough once to put a headband on, and it had an app, and it measured your concentration, and I went shooting, and I'm not a shooter, and it was just a target. It wasn't a real thing. So don't, complain. And it was amazing. You could get an 8 or a 9 if you listened to when they told you your brain was in focus. I could hit the target right in the middle. Like, if I didn't, and my arm would shake on the rest of it. So starting to think about that, and then the way they applied it to golfers, and the way that you can apply it to a whole heap of stores. It comes down to things called flow. We know that you're in some sort of state sometimes where you feel better than not, and sometimes maybe that's a mental flow or a physical, but athletes try to get to some peak level, and again they're starting to find you can measure that with a brain, a band, and then if you can measure it, you can do something about it. So it's super cool. All parts of life.
Yeah, I love that. I especially love the application for for people with spinal injuries or amputations, like the smart prosthetics and the exoskeletons. And I was watching this news story just a couple weeks ago. It was a company in Canada, in Kitchener, and they fitted this kid who's paraplegic, and they fitted him with this exoskeleton, which costs in the hundreds of thousands, and it was revolutionary. And they managed to crowdfund to get one for him officially. But it's so out of scope for so many others, right? So
It is.
as these things happen, as the deep seeks and the Q-Rens of the world happen, the costs go down. Right? Exactly, right? So I mean,
But
that's what I'm
it's
hoping the silver lining is for these things, right? I mean,
true. It's bigger for that with robotics and exoskeletons and things like that. So with robotics, it took me a long time to understand why they are what they are. It takes a lot of money to build that first one, and a lot of money to build the second and third one, but not much to build the fourth and fifth, and nothing to build the sixth. And so, I look forward each year to events like CES in Vegas at the start of January. It was really heavily health focused this year, and there was a lot of exoskeleton stuff there. And I think I didn't get there this year, but I've been the last couple of years, and every year you can walk in and walk out with 20 different invention devices that are just going to lift the status of people, or raise all boats, as you like to say. And I think that's some of it's AI, because that's where we label everything. A lot of it's been around for a long time, but now the investment's there. And I suppose this comes back to it is, investing. We might save 100 billion in Stargate now to achieve the same thing. Maybe you could invest that elsewhere. It's not about pull it out or bad money. It's just maybe they will change some parameters. And I read yesterday that there were already forecasts of less compute or whatever. So we have a market hype cycle on top of an AI hype cycle, on top of fear. It's a really cool thing of news. And I suppose right back to the start of what we're talking about, you're up 10, 20 hours a day, just trying to keep up with what's going on, let alone how to use the technology with our customers or our cohort, our friends, our family. and actually make it real, because it's a long time sometimes between what we read, what we do at work and home, and actually getting that benefit. And focus on that end bit, and you're going to be much better off than focusing on whatever you're reading about.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you made me think of, like, I guess the sort of the broader applications, and maybe those ones that are little spoken of and that are just as maybe beneficial for all. And I was just thinking about agriculture, and the reason why it came to mind was my sister. She's a digital transformation consultant, and work with a major. Okay, I guess we're talking about benefit, and this is questionable. Major cannabis farming corporation in Canada,
No, it's a
and
crop.
helping them with their AI adoption strategy, and in particular, a solution that uses computer vision to optimize harvests, crops, yields, and we'll, with all these cameras all around, look at all the leaves on the plant and detect, okay, this one's got mold, or this is detecting there's an imbalance in the mineral distribution in the soil or the pH levels, and it's fascinating.
It's amazing.
And when she was describing it to me, I hadn't even considered that, right? Because the obvious low hanging fruit of healthcare applications and logistics and assistive technologies is so in your face. You lose kind of sight of all these other things. I wonder if you've seen anything that kind of like gave you that kind of like a pause and like, wow, that's kind of a cool thing. And really think about that, because that's where it's headed.
There is. Look, I'm continually excited about what I see. I mean, I wish I had more thumbs and more ways of posting more things and sharing it, because and ingesting it myself. Every day there is something to just rocks your boat. Agriculture's been really dominant for a long time, and I think it's sort of one of those hidden things, because you're not seeing the investment and the major labels, and up they are. But I mean, the robotics industry, which is all AI driven, is really going to take that over from harvest. In that area, planting and harvest. John Deere released a whole heap of new tractors at CES that are all robotic. China's got more robotic trucks and everything, then you don't need people. So what do you need them for? You have to find that out. But you're 100% right of the increase of crops and stuff without pesticides, the control of the product. We've got customers that are using AI for those sorts of things across a whole range of industries. Animal husbandry. You have to get animal animal growth, I suppose. You talk about. How do you get a animal with the right size to market? But then you got to get it to market when the money pays the most, and then when the money pays the most is when the transport. Sometimes you end up in some of these use cases for agriculture, which will have 300 variables in it, which in the past would just been too hard to process.
Yeah.
But soil thing, and then add the complexity of images, which sure, we just say put another camera up, but cameras, when we send emails to people, that an image takes a lot more than a word. And so when you do that over and over a crop or a farm, you're getting a lot of info. But when I was at AWS, I saw a lot of cool stuff, and there was things where customers were working on using their cattle as mesh networks. So if I had a herd of cattle, I could make them a wireless network, and wherever they went, I'd end up with a wireless network to do that.
Yeah.
I know they talk about that for some major sporting events, where you'd have a group of people go through a process. You can actually then turn all of them into a hub and a network as they move along. And then the communication and the data they process becomes really rich and do that. I suppose sport is one of the leaders. We follow certain industries, that are high value image creation. One of them is, disreputable, but the other one is sport. And some of the stuff you're starting to see come out from the sport experience, which will take you from home and decision time, what should I do, all the way through to returning home through that whole experience. Some of that's amazing. I saw a really good example just of the tennis at the Australian Open this week, where somebody watched the tennis the whole time through a version of ChatGPT or a multimodal model like that, and it gave fairly decent commentary of a tennis match. And you think, okay, well, if I was blind or I had no access or I had whatever, I have just now cracked a way that didn't exist before by holding my phone up and letting it watch the tennis, because I got no idea what it is, and it just tells me what it does. It says, John hit the ball over the net to Mary, and you could say, tell me how much Mary earned. Mary was really good last year. She earned $20 because it's just your own assistant. So
Yeah.
we use that a lot for that at home. We use it a lot for games. I think we get, learning for different organizations and different people. Sometimes gamifying used to be, make it look like a cartoon image or make it look something, novel. But to me, games a lot more. A game could be, how do we solve this business problem? How do we use AI to do it? And you end up with a lot of solutions really quickly because, your AI knows more than you. It's smarter. Some of the bad ways I've seen it used, I've seen it used in negotiating cars as a salesperson, and I think that's rude. It's going to come, but you all need to be aware of it, that anytime you do a negotiation, whether it's a car or a house or whatever, their sales agent, their AI agent, sales agent, as well as their agent, knows your income. It knows how much you can afford. It knows all of the details about it. So your ability to negotiate is just gone. You may as well just have a standard price because they know more than you know. And with your AI glasses, it can just keep updating me on the run. No, he lied. He didn't do that. He just said that wrong. That's not true. He's got a child support debt. He owes this on his house. By the way, he can't afford that. He hates green. I know all this about you. Why are you even telling me? So I think that's going to be interesting where that changes the sales process. And I think the other thing is when end user customers have more data about themselves through the process, they can start skipping individual processes, because I don't need to go all the time through 3 or 4 chains if I have my data. And that's not true way beyond healthcare. That's education, transport. You said agriculture, but one of the areas that this is really big is in emergency health response and disaster response. Because at that stage, it's like COVID, all rules go out the window. And so clever people go, oh, wow, how can we do stuff? Some of that stuff needs to be able to be forced in. And we would say, oh, we can't do that in our country because of legislation or because of red tape. And there's a lot of good rules for that. In other countries, they just do that faster.
Yeah. And I guess you kind of touched on the whole kind of ethical debate, right? And I know censorship is a sensitive point for you, and I want to go into that. But you're talking about the need for human oversight as a means of checks and balances, and it feels like the genie, and we've said this before, the genie's out of the bottle, right? And when you consider, you touched on edge computing, you're talking about holding up your phone at the tennis match and saying, hey, tell me what's going on. There's an
100%.
AI agent on your phone then to be able to do that, right? Which means your data, you're not using any bandwidth on any network. It's native to the device. And so what are the implications there? It's seeing all of your data. You've kind of given away the farm as it is, and then what are the rules and regs behind that? And there's,
I'm really liberal about this in a lot of ways. The customers I've worked with, including governments, national security, and even as people, we know that there's been a lot of breaches. And if I look into a government system and work out what they know about me as Troy Latter, I go, okay, China's already got it. And I go, you know what? What? So what? Now what are we going to do? And I think you need to take a lot bit of that. But there are some really downsides and some good sides. I read a report that in 2023, they haven't got the 2024, that misinformation increased 900%. 900% in 2023 must be thousands of percent in 2024. And you think that's before we've really started getting to some of the information that's happening now. So misinformation's always been an issue. America changing a whole heap of laws in the last couple of weeks hasn't helped. Your diversity and inclusion has just been rocked. Your Facebook saves $5 billion by cutting its arm to go and check and validate things. Most of that I think, what did I read? 5 billion of that, 900 million goes straight to Zuckerberg. Like, it's not a dumb decision. Hi, Trumpy, let me have some money back. Musk invests 200 million, turns around to 3.4 billion. Today Trump announces he's going up to get some friends from up in the space station. You mentioned the finance. Yesterday, Musk announced a relationship with Visa card and blockchain. I made jokes this morning on LinkedIn about, what will he do when, he starts making, every Tesla be the government car. Like, he could just turn around and do that sort of stuff tomorrow, because he wants to, and it's fun. And I think that's where it goes too far. But there was a lot of good things happen since we've caught up. The EU have put some really good legislation in about regulating high-risk applications. And so things that actually go across countries and across customers, across the EU. It's a really hard thing to do, but they've done that. You mentioned China. I think I read this week that China can predict within 99.9% accuracy on most of their citizens most of the time. So your social scoring and things like that. Social scoring is twin edge for me. I think you should give back to the community and get a few points for it. And if you do something bad, you should lose something for it. So that's there. I'm not about taking people's money or privileges away. We've found that in Australia that it doesn't work with some of our own disadvantage, our Indigenous and stuff, where the government said, we'll put a program in and we'll control what you can spend. I'm not into that at all. But one thing I can tell you that's really happened for me that was exciting this year, and I think the world needs to know, is that Australia, world-leading legislation, and the world was looking on to follow before Trump, and probably still needs to look at a lot of the momentum but we put a lot of new legislation in through an official position we have called the E-Safety Commissioner. And the E-Safety Commissioner and her team look at all of our online content. They've already had court battles with Zuckerberg over posting horrific acts of violence and been successful in taking them down. Then they've taken that further to put programs into schools and to businesses, and a whole lot of co-design work that helps people set the guidelines up and be safe. And these aren't just Australian guidelines, these are global things now that the E-Safety Commissioner is leading through other countries. But I think for people that want to understand how to apply it to their business, how to do things really simple in a small business enterprise and a large, medium, all the way up to government. But there's a lot of tools, and we'll put it in the link, but there's a lot of access there and thinking that's helped shape the Australian thinking and I suppose our allies' thinking, except for America, on what do we do with this content? What will we allow our content to our children or our people to see? And the big legislation point I skipped over is that they've banned social media for 16-year-olds and under. So if you're 15 and you want a Facebook account or a TikTok account, no thanks, it doesn't matter. So we've made a line in the sand that we believe at a certain age you can drive, you can drink. Well, at a certain age you can be responsible enough to see some of the misinformation that we talked about and make a decision, because misinformation was, we didn't talk about it last time because the elections were well over, but, it certainly swayed the election. This last year for the Americans, 52% of the world voted last year, the Democratic world, 52%. We had India vote, we had America vote, we had Australia vote, France. These big blocks of people all voted angrily, some of them with misinformation. So it's really important that we have the guide rails, the government support to actually go back and fight these businesses and say, do you know what? Now, our systems are important. Our systems cover people, their national security. We will make a decision on their behalf sometimes. So I'm finding it really hard, Carlos, that I support that censorship.
Yeah.
But I don't support all of the American AI tools not letting me make a picture of Trump. in any form I want. Like I don't, one seems ridiculously harming children through social media. All the things that we've talked about for the last 10 years that the companies didn't put the guardrails in, they didn't protect people, they've targeted people. I want that. I don't want someone to say, Troy, Trump with a moustache is a no-go. Like, who cares? So, because just like TikTok, I will just open up another AI app. In this case, I opened up DeepSeek and I made a great picture. I can do
Right.
it. I'm a consumer. I can go to any channel I want, and if you want to block it, I'll find another one. If I don't like my bank, I'll go to another bank. If I don't like my doctor, I'll go to another doctor. The only people you can't do that with is your government. But people like to do that too. That's why one of the biggest, not AI related, but one of the biggest growth things in the world last year, Carlos, was a golden passport or a golden visa, where people are repatriating around the world. When the Ukraine war started up, a lot of rich Russians and Ukrainians all left and went to countries around the world that would let them bring assets in or whatever. And then the same when Israel happened. Obviously, Syria has been happening for a long time, and Lebanon it wasn't. But now you can just see every time there's a political swing and people make a decision, people will vote with their feet and their wallet. The UK put a rule in. I think they called it a millionaires tax, and they thought that they would get more tax out of all the millionaires that were contributing to society. I think 10,000 millionaires just got up and left to the UAE. Those people aren't just millionaires; they're brainy people that run companies and have investments and stuff. So, it doesn't matter what their wealth is; they have a significant value to the country apart from whatever they do. And it's just like, no, we'll tax you 2% more. You can go, and they do. Australia's going to suffer from it as well. The US, I don't know what. Maybe your cat's needs food, Carlos.
I think she's trapped in here. Are you trying to get out? All right, hang on. All right, get out of here. I wasn't sure if you could hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to break your flow there, but
No, it's okay.
really one of two cats and one of 4 animals in the household: 2 dogs, 2 cats. Crazy animal people.
It's good. I think. We have 1 dog and 1 cat, and I must admit, I like my dog more after TikTok and Instagram, because I just didn't realize how cute and exciting dogs can be. And how smart. I've had dogs all my life, but I just don't think I've loved them as much as I've loved some of these other dogs I see.
Right. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. Well, we've got an hour has gone by really quickly. We got 7 minutes left, and we've talked about pretty much everything. And I just wonder, what are your thoughts on we're gonna save some of the juicy future stuff, you being in Australia and everything. The quantum computing, we touched on edge computing, we touched on transhumanism, but what are you seeing? You've got a unique kind of dual lens, because you've got a dual role, at Unisys, a Tech for Humanity,
So look, the future's, one of those crazy sayings is what you make it, and all those sorts of things. It's true. But the future's really too speed for everybody at the moment. We've got the big enterprises that are reading the news, trying to work out how they deal with, high percent, millions of dollars of legacy capital they couldn't operate successfully before. And now even the things they were architecting last week are out of sync, and they've got to go and redesign them. Somehow they've got to work out that speed. And I think what you'll see with a big aggregation of the way the SaaS platforms are working with their AI is there'll just be a much tighter integration. So if you sign up to it and Microsoft do an upgrade, it just might upgrade everything all the time, and you'll never have an issue, and you'll just go, well, this is amazing, and I'm protected to Microsoft level. And you might be really happy, and that's 90% of people, and it's just a really simple thing. So you can democratize it, you can bring it, and you can make some of those things really easy. I think for me, The really exciting things are unknown. So we got excited about smart cities a few years ago, but when you're going to hit 100 billion AI or IoT devices sitting out in the network soon, and I think their use is only just starting. We collect a little bit of data, and you can see what China can do with it, and we use it for one reason. We're going to get really good at getting data and using it for multiple reasons and then sharing it. And I hope we'll get better at resharing it. We have customers. I see a lot of customers that take big data sets from the government in transport or healthcare, and they create solutions. And then the data doesn't come back to the government to make the pie go bigger for everybody. When I worked on the smart cities work in Singapore, they realized that everybody needed to meet a certain criteria. And once you're on there, everybody had to be allowed to play. And once you do that, you'll have 300 SaaS companies that won't need separate upgrades. They'll just upgrade to each other. So your enterprise stack will actually get tighter and tighter if you wanted to. And instead of or nothing talking to each other, they will. So that'll take us back into agentic AI. And, I threw something up the other week that surprised me, that the word agentic AI, if you go to Google Trends and look up Google Trends, it wasn't even trending till December. It wasn't even a blip. In January, agentic AI was a word, and now we can talk about it. And I think that's where it'll be really interesting, Carlos, is how quickly people adapt to that and understand what that means. And for me, the first agent I built was a travel agent, because I'm sick of the discourse between cheap flights that seem really easy and the service that I get from a travel agent, and the pain that it is trying to organize it with families and hotels and stuff. So I set up a little agent for airfares and a little agent for hotels and a little agent for cars and anything else, a Disneyland trip, and they all talk to each other now. And so when we change one thing, they all talk to each other and change all the itineraries, and they argue with each other. And, you need 3 more hours at Disneyland, and now you'll need a car, not a boat. It does all that for me. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can do that mucking around with the kids, most of us can. And then so if I do that with my enterprise and I start talking, about, letting sales teams have intel, or chemists and scientists have greater intel and collaboration, or even just your marketing folk, like how do you, or your HR people, what are my people doing? The more data you've got, just like those edge devices, the more rational, better decisions you can make. And if you take this deep seek approach, you'll just keep fine tuning exactly the right bit of information versus I've got 1 million employees and it's just all noise. And to me, that's, again, all of it. All of this comes back to those simple things, like the technology, whether it's quantum computing, AI, machine learning, blockchain, big deal. What's it mean for you and your business? If you don't know what it does, call Carlos or me, because we'll work it out for you. Because that's
absolutely,
that's the question you've got to work out. It's how does it affect my balance sheet? How does it affect my people? How does it affect me as an owner operator? How does it affect my executive? The AI stack is everywhere. We talked about new roles of AI product managers or AI integration managers, and there's even AI change managers. But that's it. You've got to now think about every single bit of my business could change if I wanted it to. Do you want to be the changer or the one that's changed? It's going to come back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, if and anybody out there who is looking to make some changes and really know what where to start and need some help, please reach out to Troy. And here's his LinkedIn profile. Put it in the comments as well. You can get his email there, and definitely check out Tech for Humanity. And that's that I think is going to be a great first step. So yeah, Troy, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I appreciate you getting up at the crack of dawn to join this conversation. And I can't wait till we talk again. Let's not wait 18 months
Yeah,
for the next one.
let's not wait 18 months. A lot happened in AI and people and change and ethics, and we certainly didn't get to cover anything. But look, as Carlos said, reach out, friendly chap, happy to have to work out what you need for your organisation. But most importantly, you just need to remember that I am 10 hours and probably 20 years ahead of you. So see you in the future.
Strap in. Yeah, that's right.
Strap in and ride the lightning. We're ready.
That's right. Well, I appreciate that, Troy. Troy Ladd, everyone, and thanks so much for joining.
Thanks very much, Carl.